When a child has Asperger's or high-functioning autism, parents walk a fine line. Sometimes, under certain circumstances, the child is perfectly capable of behaving typically. Other times, not so much. And it's not easy to predict when things will suddenly become overwhelming. If parents say something like, "My son has a disorder called Asperger's syndrome," to a scoutmaster or a coach or a neighbor, they may set their child up to be excluded or treated differently. But if they don't tell, there's the possibility that a sensory issue or a misunderstanding could lead to some real problems. Hello everybody, this is Mark Hutton, and in this video we want to look at disclosing your child's diagnosis of Asperger's to others. Most parents with children on the autism spectrum want to know, should I disclose to others that my child has Asperger's or high-functioning autism? If so, who should I tell and how much information should I give them? Well, the answer to these questions are threefold. There are times when full disclosure is needed. There are times when partial disclosure will suffice. And there will be occasions when you should not disclose at all. Let's look at each of these in turn. Full disclosure. In those cases where an adult will be working closely and frequently with your child, for example, babysitters, teachers, and therapists, full disclosure would be necessary. Also, for those who will be having an ongoing relationship with your child over the years, for example, siblings, grandparents, and other close family members, full disclosure is also needed. In both of these scenarios, certain people will be having a lot of contact with your child, so it's vital that they know as much as possible about the disorder and how it affects your child particularly. In this way, these individuals will know what to expect, how to help prevent issues before they arise, and how to intervene when problems do arise. Partial disclosure. In those cases where an adult will be working with your child in a group context rather than one-on-one, for example, a karate coach, or the relationship will be temporary, for example, staff at a summer camp, then partial disclosure will usually suffice. For example, if your Asperger's daughter is taking karate lessons, she will probably do well most of the time. So a partial disclosure statement could be something like this. Sarah is someone who really needs structure, so if you're going to make a change, it would help if you would tell her before class. When things are unpredictable, she gets anxious and could have a problem. In this way, you're giving the coach a heads up about a potential issue without divulging your child's actual diagnosis. No disclosure. In cases where the information could be used against your child, for example, telling your child's neighborhood friends or classmates, no disclosure is advised. Children can be cruel, and a child on the autism spectrum is often a sitting duck for the bullies. So, with the exception of siblings, your child's peers, in other words, those about the same age, are best left in the dark about your child's disorder. One parent stated, "I made the mistake of telling my neighbor that my son was a little autistic. Ever since then, her children have started fights with my son on the bus and in the neighborhood. It got so bad that my husband and I kept our son in the house. Since then, we have moved. Now I don't tell our neighbors who my son is, that is, someone with Asperger's, but I have said to them he is a loner at times." Now, having said all this, there is one exception to number 3. In some cases, it may be appropriate to educate your child's class or school about Asperger's and high-functioning autism. If you do decide to disclose to a class, be sure to do some planning and preparation and also involve the school and your child's teacher. Now, some parents choose to go to the school and make the presentation themselves, and whether or not your child is in the room at the time is up to your child and you. See how your child feels about that. Some will want to be there and some won't. Some children on the autism spectrum may even choose to make the presentation themselves. Now, if making a presentation like this is not a strong point for you or your child, you may be able to get a teacher, school counselor, or an outside professional to talk to the class. In any event, it may be in your child's best interest if people at the school, both the students and staff, learn a few things about autism spectrum disorders. On another note, it is not recommended that parents give their child instructions to be silent about his or her disorder. In other words, if the child wants to self-disclose to a friend or a neighbor or a classmate, he or she should be permitted to do so. Having said all of this, the bottom line is the disclosure decision is up to you and your child. What's right for one family may not be right for another.